This is Infection, the survival podcast recorded live July 27th, 2021, episode 341. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your source for the latest information on survival video games. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on various social media platforms. I'm at Nick on a couple of them. I'm at Nicholas M. Craig on others. The best bet is to go to nickcraig.net. My social media stuff is there. If you would like to check out my daily political rantings each and every weekday morning, you can go to nickcraig.com. Joining me, as he does each and every week, a new man, I guess, rocking the graphic. Now, let me ask, did you get that at Kohl's?
No, this was given to me by a friend as a gift.
Okay.
He gave me a
rocking
Mountain Dew shirt.
Not a sponsor, Mountain Dew shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, with an I, Aldridge. Hello, Brian.
Hello, and thank you. If you want to find me, we'll get that out of the way really quick.
Of course.
At Brian Aldridge on Parler or Gab. Biteoftech.com is my blog. And of course, Nick said go to infectionpodcast.com. Check out the right-hand side, and you'll see on there, join our server on Discord. If you do that, that's the best way to get a hold of us, to submit news topics, to hang out, play some ARC with a bunch of people. There's a lot of stuff going on. And also, we have on there different channels for various things. So if there's anything you're interested in, or you think that we're not quite covering the topics that we need to cover, there's a channel for that as well. Just toss it in the news channel. If you want to get notified sometimes, I don't know. We'll decide if we're going to, I know that you said we don't have to do this, but the Steam group or the Steam notifications just seem to not happen anymore. So I may hold off until the next time change or something and see if we missed that little window. But if you want to watch the video forms, you can do that through Twitch, through YouTube, BitChute, and DLive. We also have a podcast extras channel which has some of the pre and post shows put on those. If you want to listen, go to the lower right hand side. We got links for all kinds of platforms, devices, whether it's mobile, on your computer, a lot of different things you can do on there. And that's for the audio only form, and that is only after the fact. That's not live. But if you are going to be listening after the fact, you might want to follow along with our show notes. And if you click on the particular episode that we're going to be doing, we'll have links for everything that we discuss, whether it's videos, news articles, tweets, anything in there is linked. And then you can go in and follow along as you listen if you're going to be doing that. There's also a video and audio player in there. You're more than welcome. And then if you want to support us, you can do that through, there's infectionpodcast.com/support. We have on there our Prime Gaming. We have Humble Bundle, Amazon. There's a lot of different things that you can do. And if you're interested in that, that's all going towards the next convention that we're able to go.
There's no audio player on the last episode. I hope I uploaded the podcast version. I assume somebody would have let me know. If not, I'm just going to check that real quick, or maybe the
link's not working.
Maybe the website changed. Let me see here. Infection podcast. Oh, son of a bitch! I don't see it in my podcast player. Oh, how did nobody let me know?
I don't know. Did you not put it on there? I saw the YouTube ones.
It's on YouTube.
Okay, yeah, somebody missed it. Well, just toss it in there, and we'll have a double episode.
I don't understand how that's even possible.
Well, we can figure it out. We'll figure it out. Worst case, you can upload it double.
Yeah,
on that platform.
All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I did notice we had more people watch the live stream this week. I wonder if they just went.
It would have been nice if somebody sent me a damn note. Now I think about it, I don't know if I got my email. It's in here. Why is it not in the? It is in here. It's 100% in here. No, it's not. I am a stupid asshole.
All right, I forgive you. We got
all
this.
All right, episode 340 is now uploaded. Check your podcatcher.
Perfect.
7 days late.
Bam, and then we'll have one a little bit later. Bam, double for you.
All right. Well, apologies about that. They're not sending their best, Brian, and I'm not their best, so that's exactly what's going on here. All right, let's get this show underway. It's all falling apart. PAX. Speaking of events. We lucked out, Brian. I think I made the prediction that PAX West would have some nonsensical demands, and in fact, they are. PAX West will be requiring attendees to prove that they're vaccinated or a negative COVID-19 test, which I refuse to do to get into a stupid gaming convention. So
yeah,
we lucked out. No PAX this year for us. Good to go. Wasn't glad we're missing it, because that would have been. Could you imagine having to get there? Because you would have had to get there early to get a freaking negative COVID-19 test.
And I have a feeling they'll also require masks. There's no way that they're not going to require masks for this thing as well.
Yeah,
just knowing the type of people that are running it.
It says throughout the years, the PAX team has been actively working to support a safe environment for our PAX West visitors. We are pleased to announce that, in line with recommendations of the state of Washington and local public health authorities, we'll be implementing a vaccination or negative COVID-19 test requirement for everyone at PAX West. We appreciate your patience as we work with our venue and the authorities.
How recent does it need to be? Because
it doesn't. There's no details on that.
I could say I'm clean a week ago, and if I go to a place and get infected, it's not. It doesn't guarantee I don't have it.
It doesn't do anything. I saw some funny tweets asking if they're going to be requiring a deodorant as well, because that's always the one of the issues at PAX with the rather lacking hygiene from gamers. So they said you need to have a COVID-19 vaccination card or a negative COVID-19 PCR or antigen test. Each will be verified with a valid government ID. Wow, that's incredibly racist of PAX.
I know. I thought that limited people's ability to do things.
You talk about bigotry. Well, there it is. So no PAX this year. Hopefully next year they get their head out of their ass and good to go.
All right. Well, great. Let's continue to
Vegas,
a little bit down that line of thinking.
No COVID-19 passports required.
No. I mean, how in the world did they enforce that? There's no way they could.
Where's my card?
Sure, show me your.
It'd be like, where's your COVID-19 card? It's right here, sir. Sir. This is a American Express gift card. It's COVID. This would not work at all.
So let's go a little bit down the same realm. Dell is canceling Alienware gaming PC shipments to several states, and can you guess why?
The cancer thing that you see on products sometimes, where it says like, the California thing, if it doesn't meet, there's something, you know what I'm talking about. You see it all the time.
Because they have very high regulations on power consumption, and they don't allow a device to consume more power than what this computer is consuming. And so Colorado, California, Hawaii, Oregon, Vermont, and Washington, due to power consumption regulations adopted by these states, cannot be shipped these computers. So
that means that the power supplies in them are not sufficient enough? Is that what I'm understanding?
No, they consume too much power for their regulations now for computers.
So that's what I'm saying. So then the power supplies are not efficient enough.
Well, yeah, you could say that. Or the computers are requiring too much power. I mean, so these are an i5, for instance. There is an example like an i5 with a decent video card, 8 gigs of RAM. They're showing examples. They have ones that they say will ship to all states, and then they have ones that won't ship to all states, depending on what you get.
If you notice, it's the 3000 series GTX cards. And what I don't understand,
but that 1650 for some reason, that's what I was trying to see, is the processor's the same. I'm trying to see what's different. Why one other than the hard drive? The hard drive.
They both have 7200. They both have 7200 RPM hard drives. So.
Oh yeah, that one has 2 hard drives in it.
I'm not really.
I wonder why one. They're both the same model. That's weird.
This one's funny though. It says complies with CEC power consumption. So it must be because it must have a smaller power supply in it. Yeah, probably smaller power supply.
So, the one on the left, you're saying that the one on the very left must have a smaller, where it's not quite drawing so much. I wonder if they made one that was close enough to where they just put a little bit weaker power supply in it and then charged $100 more. So
this is an issue for Alienware, but is this not also going to be an issue for Cooler
Probably for
Master,
all of those
Silverstone,
that are,
anybody
following.
what about anybody that makes PSUs? I wonder what they're having to do. Or is it only in the
Well,
final built product?
I don't know. I would think that that maybe they're kind of honoring this. I bet you companies can ship it because they probably want to seem like they're conscious, or maybe they're based out of California and they have to follow the regulation in certain places, so they might as well do it for the rest too. You know what I'm saying? They probably already had to limit out California if they're based out of California.
Yeah.
And then turn around and just did them for the other states as well, so that they didn't run into any issues.
December 9, 2021, Tier 2 requirements will expand to computers with high-speed networking capability, multi-screen notebooks, notebooks with secular behavior, and monitors with high refresh rates. What in the hell? California is burning to the ground right now. Their governor is getting recalled because of a lack of leadership. And
they're worried about a computer that's power supply is just a little bit too much.
Monitors with high refresh rates. That's it. Well, I guess no Bitcoin mining in California.
But a lot of these streamers, where are they at?
They're all in
really high-end machines. They're all, and I bet you every single one of their machines break this.
It's likely not
for existing equipment. But how are they?
What is that
things?
word? Retro. It's not retroactive. Yeah, it's likely not retroactive.
But what about going forward? Anybody who gets a new machine and then talks about it on stream admits that they're breaking law in California.
Maybe you'll have to, you'll be walking around on the street and you'll have a guy. Hey, I got your 1100 watt power supply, ATX power supply right here. It's modular. Instead of selling VCRs and hot televisions out of the back of a car in New York City in the 70s.
That's going to be high-powered power supplies.
Yeah, 1100 watt power supplies out of backs of Priuses in Los Angeles. What a time to be alive! Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
All right. Yes. All right. So let's continue this. We're talking about video cards.
Oh, sorry.
Yes. So there was an 11-year-old kid who found a workaround because Newegg keeps doing these giveaway kind of things to get rid of really high demand products. So if they're like Xboxes, they do some sort of like a lottery system. So there's 100,000 people. Yes.
This article is fake news on the headline because I read this article somewhere else. The headline says 11-year-old boy discovers workaround. No.
No, he used the workaround.
Father discovered the workaround and used it for his 11-year-old son. So apparently on Newegg, if you went and bought, they have like not pre-built, but like pre-built rigs where it breaks down all of the parts independently inside your shopping cart. So they were able to add this modular computer to their cart and then just remove every item besides the 3000 series video card and buy that. And it worked. And then it got leaked to PC Magazine and now nobody can use this. So rest in peace.
If he could just kept his mouth shut, a few people got a video card.
Well, I'd be telling all my buddies and the real question is, how did an 11-year-old kid have $1,500 series video card? I mean, obviously, I'm sure his father bought it for him.
You think it's for the kid? I think it's his.
Yeah,
he blamed it on the kid, so he can't say that he did anything wrong.
No, I saw the picture of the kid standing next to his gaming rig on
I know,
or something like that.
I just think it's funny. It's probably the dad wanted the video card, and he's like, "All right, son, I'm telling him you did this."
Well, and the other thing was the father was interviewed by PC Magazine or PC Gamer, somebody, and he said, I thought about just buying dozens of these cards and flipping them on eBay. And he was like, but then I realized I didn't want to be a scumbag. So I just bought one for my son and left it at that. So fortunately he didn't. I mean, honestly, I would have given the system. I mean, that's what everybody else is doing.
Well, it's not really, if it's operating how they produce this thing to you and you're using it as it's, operating that, and you don't know you're breaking it, because you could go through and then remove, and it's a normal purchase.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's purely about pre-existing knowledge that there's a limit on these things.
Yeah.
Anyway,
smart. I'm going to start being more diligent when buying things online. I bet you that works on a lot of different websites.
Yeah. Anything you were struggling to get something.
Yeah. So,
all right. So another thing. So if you happen to have gamed the system, got your 3090, there's now an issue because remember they started that New World from Amazon, that game, New World. They started their closed beta, and they ran into the issue, and I think it's at the menu screen if I remember reading what I read, but it was burning up, just killing these 3090 cards,
Now, what do you
bricking
say
a
when
number
you
of these
mean
cards.
killing?
They're overheating them,
Wow.
causing hardware failures
Holy
because of
smokes.
them not limiting probably the frames on
frame
like
rate?
the menu screen, where it sits there and just uses there's no cap on it, so it's using as many frames as you'll give it. It's sitting at the menu screen, so sitting there just cranking out 3,000 frames per second, doing nothing, but sitting there at a menu, so it's sitting there 100% GPU usage, and this was through the automatic settings. So this is a problem. This is also alpha. This is why it's alpha, and you sign a big disclaimer saying, hey, this is a very big issue that something on your computer could die. We don't guarantee anything. By signing this, you're releasing all rights to sue us. So this right here, but video card wasn't capped. They do recommend changing some settings to make it so that you don't hit that high frame rate for so long. So here it says, but the only specific instructions given to set max frame rate to off in the video control panel, its default state, and then rely on in-game frame rate limiting options. So some incompatibility. It's only in video cards, but with their automatic frame rate limiting versus them trying to do it in the game. And it was doing something just to make 100% CPU usage. So if you turn off the NVIDIA's max frame rate option in the NVIDIA settings outside of the game and then run it, the game will control it and you won't have this issue.
So this guy posted on the New World forum, I rebooted the PC and everything seemed to work fine. I even tried a few other games to make sure it was no problem. So I hit play on New Worlds again and the same thing happened, but this time I heard a loud pop, and now my 3090 won't pass post. I would jump off of a bridge.
I'd be very surprised if Amazon didn't reach out to them and replace these.
Well, it's not even, the good news is it doesn't matter when you bought an, the 3090s are all so new, they should all still be under some sort of warranty.
Some sort of hardware.
This
should be some sort of a thing preventing this from happening.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Even outside of the game, the card itself should stop itself from literally melting. I mean, I understand that there may have been an issue on the screen, but you're telling me that like my CPU won't let me run itself to when it explodes. It'll shut off. Like that's what it does. Like you build in these stops in these cards. If it's, your GPU is running at probably 200 degrees Fahrenheit. I mean, I don't know how hot it would have to be. Actually, it doesn't even have to be hot. It could have been drawing so much power that I guess if you had a large enough power supply, it could have drawn so much power that it overrated something, a capacitor or something on the board pulling too much voltage. I don't think it would have been heat related because thermals will, the heat, it will stop itself. But if you blow up a capacitor, blow up a transistor on it, because it's drawing 2,000 watts through, that's obviously way extreme, but drawing 2,000 watts through a little capacitor that's rated to draw 700-800 watts, and your power supply is big enough, I guess that is the case. But you would think there would be some sort of stopgap.
Well, and one thing you can do also, they said, is go in the game and just set your max FPS to 60 frames, which I can't imagine they haven't rolled out a patch. Customer support's
reply was, I'm sorry to hear about this issue you're having with your GPU. Have you had a chance to check out the graphics and performance section under common issues?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's like the whole thing exploded.
Yeah, my card is my house is currently engulfed in flames because of my video card burning up. No, I didn't have a chance to check the FAQ. It's dead.
So yeah, they have put out an update which caps the frame rate on the menu screen to prevent these from happening. So from what they can tell, it was, and here I'll read their official tweet. Hundreds of thousands of people played in the New World closed beta yesterday with millions of total hours played. We received a few reports of players using high-performance graphics cards experiencing hardware failure when playing New World. New World makes standard DirectX calls as provided by the Windows API. We have seen no indications of widespread issues with 3090s, either in the beta or during our many months of alpha testing. the new world closed beta is safe to play. In order to further reassure players, we will implement a patch today that caps frame rates per second on our menu screen. So they're saying it's not, who knows? Maybe it was a very particular setup of, some combination.
I can tell you why the issue is. It's that nobody's got a freaking 3000 series card. That's why I didn't catch it.
They probably didn't get many tests.
Yeah, I mean, how many of those cards are in the wild, and how many of them were part of the, the closed alpha or whatever it was prior to this. So, yeah, not surprising. I am surprised though that because I'm reading this form, EVGA. Gigabyte 3090s. This was not just like a specific style.
It was the whole chipset.
Right? Yeah, and everybody seems to be saying 3090 specific. I assume it's got something to do with power. These people probably had such large PSUs that it just allowed the card to run amok. Would be my guess.
Yep. So that should be patched, for the next.
Then this other guy,
it should be to where it's not going to happen.
This other guy says, I have a 3090 Zotac. I played the game for almost 3 hours, no problem. So it's definitely something.
But maybe he put a frame rate cap on his. Maybe when he went through the settings, set his frame rate to 60 or something like that. They'd have to find all the people that left it at default. I mean, because it could be the default setting. If you don't set it, maybe does something weird. Maybe if you go over and set it and then even set it back to auto, maybe it does something different. Just thinking in programming terms, there's a lot of things. There may be a reason that only very specific ones, for people that either did very specific steps to change a setting, or they never changed a setting, and something in the default in their very specific setup causes an issue.
I would, well, it's funny because New World is Amazon. I would be shocked.
Yeah.
Now, the good thing is these individuals will be able to get their cards likely RMA'd through support. I'm not concerned about that. I'm reading this. It says, please contact EVGA support. Please state. So I
seems like more of a hardware issue to me. I mean, it seems like it would be under manufacturer's warranty of a hardware defect, because that shouldn't happen in the first place. It should be very difficult for me to fry a card, to overheat it without it automatically shutting down.
Well, and some of these people were saying it was 10 or 15 minutes. It's not like it was running for, these cards go through, you can GPU stress test a card with Furmark or one of these other things and run it at 100% for hours and it doesn't blow up. So again, it is very interesting. There is definitely something, I would presume it's on the software side that was allowing this to happen. Subdivision says he blew up his 3090 playing Pac-Man. It's pretty impressive. Getting 8,000 frames.
The tournament edition.
Yeah. 2 trillion frame FPS. Blew up his card.
So there we go. So that's new. But one thing to keep in mind is they hit over 190,000 concurrent players on Steam. So a lot of people trying it out. I didn't play it. My weekend's been swamped. My weekend's swamped. But one of these times I'll try it once they get a couple of these under their belt and have it a little more polished and try it, because I should have access to all these.
Judd says, I wish I was able to have a card to blow up. Yeah, I'm sure many folks were also. At least if you had the card and were able to blow it up, you could probably get it RMA'd. So, damn.
All right. Okay. Do we want to do something kind of light, or we do want to do something a little more heavy?
I want to talk about Valve.
Okay.
They're doubling, tripling, and quadrupling down. I'm willing to accept I was wrong. Valve says the Steam Deck, which is their new portable handheld we talked about last week, will run the entire Steam library at 30 plus FPS. Brian,
on 800,
I don't see
800p resolution.
I don't see how that's possible. The entire Steam library. This is their quote.
Yeah, I think part of it is because they're running it at 800p resolution, probably on low. There's probably a lot of factors that go into this. It's not going to be super high definition because they're doing 800p. It's not a high definition screen or resolution that they're running these games on.
If in fact Valve is able to do this, this will be absolutely game changing.
Yeah, it takes portable computing with actual computing.
And you're talking about, and they said the Steam Deck, meaning the cheapest Steam Deck, likely.
Yeah.
which is what, $399. Run
Something
the
like that,
entire Steam library at least. And I mean, honestly, on a handheld, you wouldn't want to get more than 30 FPS anyway, because you're just frankly killing. You're just
The
you're-
battery,
you-
you're wasting the battery at that
you're
point.
wasting
too.
the battery. Like, to me, I would probably want a hard cap at 35 frames. I don't think you'd want more than that. You're just burning power for really no reason. Anything over 30 frames a second. The what is the refresh rate of the screen? I don't remember if that's even been talked about. I assume
Well, I mean, they're saying a minimum. I bet
hertz?
you it is at least 60 frames. 30. Okay.
No, it's 60 hertz touchscreen. Okay.
60
yeah.
hertz is what it's capable of.
It seems like I would put a hard limit at 30 or 35 frames. You might be able to set that. I don't see the benefit of wanting to even be able to run a game at over 35 frames.
All you're going to be doing is wasting CPU cycles at that point.
Yeah. CPU and GPU cycles just doesn't seem to make any sense. Your gaming experience, I don't think, will be that drastically better, and you'll likely get some more battery lifetime.
Yeah, and Subdivision is saying the screens dynamically change down the hertz to save battery.
Oh,
so they'll just have it to where, you'll have it to where maybe if you can put it in high performance mode if it's plugged in, and then if you're on the road and as the battery drains, you can start lowering your frames down a little bit, so you get to the minimum of what they accept. But hey, this so this kind of reminds me of what could be, because I remember the transition from cell phones to smartphones, right?
Yeah.
What we now know as a smartphone, and remembering the time when I said, hey, eventually your cell phone is just going to be a computer in your pocket, which is now pretty much where it's at. Equivalent, not a super powerful computer, but a computer powerful enough to do a lot of things. I mean, they're running Windows 11 on these things and running games on them. I think this, if they can get momentum behind this, and I think Nintendo was the start of it, which they've been kind of the start of a couple things, with gaming. But I think they're the start of it. And if they can get it to where these other companies see the advantage of this, then this will become much more. And as you said, I don't think they want to be the ones that have to sell all these. They want manufacturers to sell all these. They just want to provide the service. And I think that if we can get this to jumpstart, this will really make the push to having portable computing that's more open, because that's what I'd rather have. That's the only thing I don't like about the Switch is being so, it's like a cell phone. I don't want to be limited so much. I want it to be more of a device that I have the ability to play games on, not a Nintendo device.
And when this begs the question, why is the Nintendo Switch so underpowered, and why does its games look so crappy if Valve can pull this off for $400?
Nintendo's always done that, though. I mean, name a console in recent time that hasn't been underpowered. Their Switch was the most powerful one that they've ever released, compared to current technology. Their Wii's have always been way behind.
When the Wii came out, which was 2006, 7, 8, it was still standard definition. This was, we were well into even the Xbox 360, which came out 2 years prior, came with a connector. You remember this, Brian? It had a component composite. It had a little switch on it, and it had all of the cables. And the Wii came out, and it was standard definition. Now they did eventually make, because it was an RGB, it wasn't a SCART connector, it was some sort of RGB style connector. They did make adapters to convert it to component. The Wii U was incredibly underpowered when it came out. The Switch at the time,
I mean, the technology of that screen was pretty cool, but it still was really underpowered. The machine itself was super underpowered.
The Switch wasn't that underpowered when it originally came out, but I'm surprised that when they've announced the new Switch, the OLED Switch, that it doesn't have better specs. It is the exact same hardware with a better screen. But I guess since it's a closed platform, and frankly, a majority of the popular games are made by Nintendo, I guess it doesn't really matter.
But look how popular it became. It was one of the first ones that brought non-Nintendo games, because the thing is that was what was really shocking when they first released. It wasn't just Nintendo games. They were bringing in anything pretty much that did Unreal Engine. That they had the ability to make it run on these Switches.
Yeah,
so I think that was a big change. And I think then people felt like, it was going to be more of an open platform. You'll get all kinds of games, but it's Nintendo, so they're still going to limit what they bring in. I just think people are itching for more of a mobile gaming device. And maybe this is the type of thing that'll get people off of consoles, less focused on consoles and gaming be more about the game itself on whatever device. Because right now it seems like there's so much focus on the console itself that I think is becoming less relevant.
Yeah. Well, Nintendo likely, I was going to say, and I think the gut reaction is Nintendo is shaking in their boots, but then the reality is Nintendo has never cared about what other developers do.
Yeah.
They just do their own thing.
Yep.
So, yeah, there you go.
And one other thing, I saw an article talking about how emulator developers are seeing a lot of potential in the Steam Deck.
Oh my God, yeah.
Because, and they said even for Nintendo Switch games, because as we were discussing about,
that's going to be illegal.
There's just so many issues with like Switch and the Sony PSPs, the Vitas. They're always way behind. They'll put them out and then they don't update them, and they can't run anything current. So I think something like this, where it's not about the device itself, it's the platform. And then anybody can make a device to try to use the platform. I think just people will gravitate and realize that's a lot better of a deal. And, then you can run things like emulators on it. You can run your own software because Steam doesn't own the device. Nintendo doesn't own the device. I own the device, and I get to run what I want. That's what I've always wanted. I'd rather be able to run what I want on it.
The real question will be, can you get emulators on SteamOS without having to flash? Because you can obviously run Windows on it or Linux, but the performance is likely not going to be anywhere near what you're getting on SteamOS. Is the OS itself is tweaked specifically for the hardware that the device has.
I have a feeling it'll be more open. Personally, I think it's going to be more open, where they're not going to be locking things down, where it'll be easy for you to sideload software or load an application in. I'm sure they're building in something for that. Because this is open source, isn't it? Isn't their operating system kind of more open than anything they've had before? I don't know if it's truly open source, but if they're going to be putting it on other people's devices, they need to have it somewhat open.
I think there is some source. The last version of SteamOS, the last version of SteamOS, which is like SteamOS 2, that the Steam Link runs, I've got a side-loaded emulator on that, and it works well. That wasn't that complicated.
Well, would they allow you
some stuff on a USB stick and put it in there, and then it rebooted to it or something? But it's still running SteamOS. I didn't have to blow out the operating system to install the emulator. So hopefully that's the same thing.
Like here, they're saying that there's some sort of a GameCube Wii emulator called Dolphin. Dolphin, if you could get that to launch, but Steam is going to be all those PC games. So if you launch it like a game, and then have the, because you can do that in the regular Steam, you can launch an external game.
But
I wonder if you could do something like that.
But that's because the _operating system is Windows. This is
Linux. So all they have to do is run a Linux distribution or Linux compiled version of their emulator, and it should run on the hardware.
I'll tell you what, that would be really dope if this device not only will play Steam games at $400, but if you can, and I'll say this, I'll speak for Brian, we do not condone ROMs or any sort of piracy, none of that. It will be dope, though, if this thing can run your Game Boy emulators, it'll obviously run things like SNES, all the older stuff, but it would be cool if it can get into PSP emulation, Wii U emulation. We've even seen Xbox 360 emulation recently.
Okay, here, I've actually got something directly related to this.
Sure, what you got?
So here they're talking about, they said Linux is simply better for emulation. They prefer Linux over Windows for these because they've got Higan, Higan, which is a multi-system emulator, NES, Super NES, Game Boy, Master System, and more. Dolphin does the GameCube and Wii. Citra does 3DS. DuckStation does PlayStation. PCS X2 is PlayStation 2. Yuzu, Switch, and then RPCS3 is the PlayStation 3 emulator. So all of those are Linux. So they should be able to run those directly on the hardware and be able to run all those games on it.
If I've never heard of this Yuzu before, I'm looking at it now. I've never used it. If in fact you can install a Nintendo Switch emulator on the $400 Steam Link and run
and play it like a Nintendo
obviously
Switch.
The games, you'd be committing piracy with the copies of the games, but that will happen anyway. If in fact that's the case, rest in peace.
Yep.
To the Switch.
Yeah, that'll be the new. I mean, why would you bother getting a Switch with all the limitations? I mean, that's the frustrating thing for me is like, okay, I bought the device. You know, other than buying from your store, like, why are you limiting me on the hardware? I always hate that when I get limited, and that's what I hate about phones. I don't. If I pay $1,000 for this, why do you have the right to tell me what I can install and not install on this? You know, and I feel like it's kind of the same way.
This Yuza project is got a Patreon. They're pulling in $21,375 a month. That's like that's almost the average median yearly income across a good chunk of the United States. There are 5,453 people paying a monthly subscription for this. That's incredible.
Nice. Yeah, well, and it looks amazing. I mean, looking at the screenshot, like it's full resolution.
Yeah, this is cool. I should try this on PC. This looks pretty neat.
Just see how it runs. Because I've got the Switch. It'd be interesting to see how much better. And yeah, it runs right in Linux. So.
And there's a bunch of homebrew apps. It says, there's a whole bunch of apps on here that will run inside of the emulator, including an NES emulator. Somebody's done a homebrew Doom port for the Switch. SNES emulator, a Wii U homebrew emulator, all of these things inside of the Yuza emulator as apps. Damn. Well, my mind is slow. My mind still won't be changed till I see the device out. But if in fact emulation is that capable on it, that's going to be a hard thing to overlook for $400. That's really going to be a hard thing to overlook.
Yep. So one thing too here, and they say emulators are totally legal as long as you don't contain proprietary code or information gleaned from illegally obtained documents. So I don't know. I wonder if that means like I own a Switch. I own that game. Can I run it in an emulator on?
You can, unless you have the device that you physically put the card into, strip the ROM, and then compile it yourself, which obviously you don't have and nobody has.
Yeah.
So no, I mean, either way, it's going to be illegal, but that is what it is.
Well, there you go.
It's pretty cool though. Yeah. The emulators themselves are not an issue. It's the copies of the games. Unless you for example, for you to rip an NES cartridge, you would need a device to interface the NES cartridge, capture the data, and then compile it back into some sort of ROM, which I'm sure is possible, but you would need an incredibly specific piece of hardware to do that. Yeah. Dreamcast, on the other hand, with that
thing was running on Windows.
No piracy protection, the game fully readable on Windows, that you could literally just take the copy of your Dreamcast game, burn it to your computer, and then you have a full copy. Judd's saying you wouldn't download
I think I still have some of those.
Dreamcast
games?
I did.
I download. Well, actually, I think did I download Crazy Taxi? Maybe I did. Dreamcast. I still have the cartridges.
You mean the discs?
The discs. I mean, sorry.
Well, bring some of those to Vegas. I'll take.
I still have my Dreamcast.
Oh, never mind. I'm not going to take your copies then.
No, I mean they're copies. I can make copies for you.
Well, I disavow that. I already have my own copies. So thank you. Okay, let's move on before the feds come on my door. Internet police.
So remember a couple weeks ago when I mentioned that Netflix might be getting into gaming more? They had hired. They hired on the new person in charge of it, and this is a little bit different than what I was wondering if they were going to do. And their first thing they're going to be doing is going more into mobile. And it says they're focused to be on mobile and be included at no additional cost. So it sounds like if you have a subscription, then you'll have ability to, for instance, the Stranger Things game. That's a product that they own. So they're going to have Stranger Things games. They have that Black Mirror Bandersnatch that they did, which was kind of an interactive style of game. And so this is going to be interesting to see where they go. They show an example of, like a Stranger Thing game. That's it's an old school adventure style game. But this is going to be where they're going. I was thinking more of the interactive TV was where they're going to be heading. I think mobile games based on the franchises that they're creating makes much more sense.
Well, let me tell you why this makes a lot more sense. Because the amount of devices that Netflix is on.
Yep.
Like,
and then which has an app in it, which then you can put a game into.
That's
you
just
can
not
hit.
Like your Samsung Smart TV that you use the Netflix app on is not going to be capable of gaming. But if they make the Netflix app on your phone, if that's capable of streaming games, or maybe the Netflix app on your Xbox
Roku
or PlayStation,
or
something with
powerful.
a controller, how are you going to control around with your, four?
They actually do. They have it to where you turn it sideways and then
on the Roku, yes, but on your like traditional
Roku,
Smart TV.
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to use? The volume up and down button to control your, it's like your Final Fantasy game on a TV.
Yep.
Don't foresee that working out too well, but it's not a surprise. I'm surprised it's taken this long, honestly, Brian. I mean, Netflix has been streaming for what, 20 years?
Especially how popular some of their different TV series are. And I see, I'm sure they're making games and then putting them, or, at least licensing games out, allowing people to make games and put them on like the iPhone or the Android store. But this makes much more sense for them. They don't even need to, if they're including it with their subscription, it just has to be in their app. They don't even have to do anything else, as far as selling these things. There's enough people that have this installed on their mobile phones already, watching Netflix.
But the technology is very different from streaming video versus streaming a game.
I don't think they'll be streaming games. I think they're just going to have it to where you can install it.
No, I think they'll be streaming the game. Yeah, I'd be
maybe. I guess with the interaction, that would be the smarter way to go. Is if they could get it, because then they could be one of the first people into that space with the infrastructure already there and already on almost all these devices. It'll just be interesting. There's not a lot of details. That's one thing, is they're expanding. They've given a little more details. Just saying pretty much the mobile is going to be first.
Bloomberg reports that Nintendo's planning on adding game streaming to its platform within the next 12. It has to be streaming because
Netflix or Nintendo.
Netflix. What did I say?
Okay, you said Nintendo.
Sorry, yeah, Netflix will be adding it within the next 12 months. It's going to be streaming, but that's a very different. Streaming an MP4 file or compressed whatever video format versus streaming an interactive game where you essentially need a virtual machine
and having no control over the
that.
Hardware. They don't have control over the hardware either.
That's why
it's going to be hard for them to make something that's going to be playable on most devices.
Well, that's why,
because there's so much variety in theirs.
But if you're streaming,
what's the input? I mean, other than being on a phone, you could have on screen.
Well, that's
input,
what I'm saying. So you'd
have
that's where
they're going to have a hard time transitioning out.
I think they will, but as long as it'll work on your phone, I'm sure, and then maybe the most recent gen consoles or whatever. But streaming, you're literally just decompressing the video file. Your device isn't rendering it, and then similar to Stadia, you send the controls back, it processes them in the cloud and spits back an image. This is essentially Stadia.
Yep. But without having to get people to buy anything.
Yeah. And they're saying at this point,
people are already giving them money and they're viewing this. Do you think that maybe they learned a little bit of something from Microsoft, realizing if you just keep improving your service, people would keep coming? Because it seems like they were doing that, just really good service, but then it seems like they've just stopped. Other than really making new series, they stopped trying to grow and make things improve the service itself, and now they're actually doing something new, because it seems like they just kind of have been coasting along and maintaining for a while.
They have been coasting along, but not only have they been coasting along, but they've also been jacking up the price. Netflix is like $14 a month now. It's like it's more expensive than Game Pass.
Mine's included with my cell phone plan, so that's kind of nice.
Oh, for
they
sure.
provide it for free, but other than that, I probably wouldn't. I don't know if I would do it.
Yeah, I'm trying to
anymore if it wasn't being paid for.
How much Netflix is? I don't even know how much Netflix is. $8.99 for standard.
That's
definition.
For one screen, low definition.
$17.99 a month for the HD version. That is, Game Pass is like $12, isn't it? Or $15?
Yeah, something like that.
Way more expensive. Yep. I don't. My parents have Netflix, and I don't actually watch Netflix, but that is an expensive service. $18 a month is a lot. And don't get me wrong, they've got some good shows. Like, I'll watch Stranger Things on it. I watched House of Cards. I could not tell you the last time I watched something on Netflix. I have Plex, so I watch all my stuff on there.
Yeah. Well, that's the same thing. I don't. If they keep raising it, that's why I think they're just trying to figure out ways to make the higher dollar amounts make sense or justified, because they can keep going on price, but they say we also offer games for this, for your premium or for the premium plus. Then they can charge you $25 a month, and you get some games included, or whatever. It seems like they're trying to figure out how can we make it, because they're realizing. Look at Microsoft. They are making a big amount of money. Something is realistically priced. How can we up our offering to where we can make the amount of money that we want to ask? It seems like where they're going.
For sure.
Because how do you go above $20, for television service? Then you're getting back to the old. What? Yeah.
Yeah, you absolutely don't.
All right. So this next one, we'll go through it fairly quickly. First of all, I wanted to follow up on one issue. So Ubisoft, remember, they've been having a lot of scandal and issues in the company with sexual harassment and all this racism.
Yeah.
It has now expanded to their Skull and Bones studio in Singapore, to where they're having issues with staff there as well. So this, it's going to keep growing. One thing that I think is interesting is, for instance, they talk about discrimination, but they say that 40% of expert and senior roles are Singaporean or permanent residents. So it's not a super high amount. That's actually, under half the people actually are from there. Where is this culture coming from that allows for this? Is it from people there? Is it people that we're shipping in from the United States over there? Like, it's kind of interesting. Just and how much of it is really happening, because some of this,
true,
I think, is just people being highly sensitive to things. For example, at Blizzard, there's been a lot of issues happening there. First of all, just going to go over some of the things that are happening here soon. They're going to be having a walkout at Blizzard
tomorrow, apparently,
in response. In response to a lot of these issues, sexism and everything else. So that's going to be happening. Also, they're going to be rebuilding trust by changing things in WoW that they view as insensitive. So that's going to be happening.
Jesus.
There's not a lot of details, but they're going to remove a content that's not appropriate for World of Warcraft.
What is the
so whatever
how do you
that
define that? What are they calling
that? Is a good question.
Or controversial.
So I don't know. I'm trying to think of anything. Maybe they have some jokes or something in there. That
the one thing that I've seen
gnomes being short. I don't know. I can't think of anything.
The one thing I've seen floating around is the over sexualization of characters.
Okay, well here let's so go to the top one. There's a World of Warcraft designer who apologized for things he said at BlizzCon in 2010. Can you play that video? Do you have that video?
I can play it. Hold on a second.
And then
2010. Holy, you're talking about the internet in 2010 versus where we are now is like you could get away with saying so much more stuff in 2010.
Okay, well, think of this in the eyes of 2010, what they're saying. So let's go and play this and just put yourself in 2010, think about what they're saying, and then we can think about how people take it now.
I've got severe acne, and I'm yelling at my mom to bring me Totino's pizza, or else I play Call of Duty.
Totino.
Hi there, Xantia from Kieran Tor. I love what you guys done with World of Warcraft. I love the fact that you have a lot of very strong female characters. However, I was wondering if we could have some that don't look like they've stepped out of a Victoria's Secrets catalog.
What do you mean?
Wait.
Which catalog would you like them to step out of?
Could you see Sylvanas looking any other way? Right. So we feel you, and we want to vary our female characters, absolutely. So yeah, we'll pick different catalogs.
Wow, really controversial.
So what was controversial and inappropriate about what they said?
What he was saying that this chick didn't really appreciate was, oh, we'll pick different catalogs of hot women besides Victoria's Secret. Are they going to go back and redo?
Well,
I mean, how do you explain Lara Croft's
you made a
triangle?
joke. You're in front of a ton of people. You're trying to make them laugh. You're trying to entertain a whole panel. You're a panel entertaining a whole room full of people, and you can't make a joke anymore. I mean, that wasn't even a risky joke.
No, it wasn't. And again, so you're going to go back and, I mean, Lara Croft's boobs in Tomb Raider used to be triangles, incredibly large triangles. I'll remind you, literally like boop, full on triangle going on. Like, all of these mythical games have always had female characters with huge boobs and normally wearing very little clothing.
Yeah.
That's kind of the whole fantasy lore. That's comic books. That's every. Now, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I'm not really. I never played WoW and never really played any of the fantasy stuff, so I'm probably not quite that well versed in it. But I've seen the pictures.
Well, I mean, one thing can I tell you is most of the women that play this game, they pick a female character that looks like that. They don't pick the ugliest character. And I understand, some blog writer. Well, I mean, I understand some blog writer wants to sit there and say, "Oh, well, this doesn't represent women." Well, it's a fantasy game. It's not made. Have you seen what the men look like? There's men. Have you seen He-Man, Hulk? Should we be mad they're not representing your average male and stop having men with muscles on television?
So this is just
what they're demanding.
This is one screenshot I found. This is obviously from old WoW. I mean, none of this is outlandish. Yeah. I mean, they have boobs. They're females.
Yeah. And one does not I think the part that she's angry about
one
is
does
that
not have big. The one in the middle does not have very big boobs.
Well, she's an elf. Everybody can't have it. But so that's the thing is that's the issue is, I mean, you look, they're skinny. I think what it really boils down to is they don't feel, because they're not skinny, it doesn't represent them.
I'm just I'm looking up some screenshots. Okay, so now this one is a little bit more scandalous, but it's still, I mean, it's a girl. Let me tell you this.
But that's the model before you put any clothes on.
Let me say this. Brian, I live at the beach.
Yeah.
This is every 18 to 35-year-old on the beach. I mean, this is not outlandish. If you think this is outlandish, don't ever go to the beach or a pool with females under the age of 35 years old, because this is what they all look like. I mean, this is not, I don't think this is over sexualization. Now, obviously I'm a misogynist because I'm a man, but none of this seems crazy. I mean, here's another one.
And that's the thing.
This isn't crazy either.
Yeah.
I mean, what's nonsense?
Well, and that's what they look like in game. I think what she's mad about is in cutscenes. They'll have cutscene where they have more stylized armor and things like that. That's probably what she's talking about. But really,
you ever played Bayonetta?
Still,
the chick in Bayonetta is like that's the whole game. Is an overly sexualized female protagonist. Phenomenal series, by the way. But that's like the whole game.
Yeah.
Like, are they going to go back and get rid of Bayonetta? I mean, this is literally the cover art for Bayonetta.
Probably will get canceled. Huh.
Great game on the Wii, by the way. I think Xbox 360 something. Good series. Again, 2010.
Yeah.
Different era, and that joke that joke wasn't crazy.
Okay, so here's what's happening next in this debacle is California is suing Activision Blizzard, over discrimination and sexist toxic work culture. So now California is suing them because of this.
Who is the state of California?
The state of California is suing Activision Blizzard.
The California Department of Fair Employment and Housing is filing a civil rights and equal pay lawsuit on behalf of victimized employees. Now, by the way, I will say this. There's, at this point, 1,000+ employees that have signed some sort of... let me see if I can get the exact verbiage here. Damn it, where did it go? There is. Where is it? There was some 1,000 people have signed some sort of document over the apparently.
They've now
treatment of
passed 3,000
themselves.
signature.
Okay, what exactly is
calling for? Okay, it's an open. Okay, it's an open letter condemning company leadership. All right, sorry about that. I had to yell at somebody. It's an open letter condemning company leadership and calling for compassion for victims. Has now surpassed 3,000 signatures. Which we're writing you a letter demanding compassion for victims. That
Jesus
really is
Christ.
just.
Okay.
It's one of those.
Okay.
Let me feel like I did something today. It actually
All right.
accomplishes nothing. I mean, so that's it.
Yeah. I believe that the culture was fostered by Blizzard's hiring practices. Hires happen to be based on cultural fit more than anything else. Yeah. You want somebody that works for you to fit your culture. I mean, that's an important part of hiring, is it not? You want somebody that fits your workflow, can vibe in your company.
That's one of, for us, that's one of the primary things we look at. That's one of the most important things that we look at is, do they fit our culture? If they don't fit our culture, there's people that really quickly, when I got hired at the company I'm at now, there's somebody who's been in, I graduated, waited a month, and hung out with Nick during that month, and then went and worked, right? There was a person who had been doing programming for like 20 years, went and applied at the same place. I got the position, he didn't. You know why? It came down to the culture. He didn't fit the culture of the company. Even though he had way more experience.
You could be a great programmer, but if you're a total asshole and nobody likes you and you're just a jackass, you're probably not going to get the job because you don't fit the culture of the company. I think that's standard in hiring practices everywhere. Personality makes a huge part of it. They're saying that the culture is toxic and one of sexual harassment and assault.
Yep.
I mean, these are criminal charges that are being alleged. Sexual assault and sexual harassment are crimes, meaning that they're worthy of filing a police report. I mean, if you believe you've been sexually assaulted or sexually harassed, you call the police, not 911, but the non-emergency police, and file a report. These are serious allegations. This isn't just, some guy makes a dick joke at a board meeting. I mean, these are serious claims. Sexual assault? That's
now the chief compliance officer. He claims that the lawsuit presented is a distorted and untrue picture of the company, including factually incorrect, old, and out of context stories, some more than a decade ago. Which is probably, for example, him responding to, okay, which catalog do you want us to have them step out of? This is the frustrating thing is we have one side saying, don't represent us this way, yet do you think we care? Do we get offended when some really muscular guys portrayed in TV? I don't get offended. Just because I don't look like that doesn't make me mad. I just don't get it.
So pretty funny. I'm not going to obviously show the pictures because this will be considered harassment, but I just found some chick on Twitter who's got the hashtag ActiBlizz. It's ACTIBLIZZ walkout, which is the hashtag they're using. He says, who has been tweeting about this, used to work at Blizzard, USA Today, and Starbucks. I guess that's a resume item. And she, of course, is talking about this. So I said, all right, well, let me go through and look at her media on Twitter and see some of the pictures she posts of herself. If this is what we're using, posting sexualized pictures of herself, relatively scandalous photos, I would say. Yet that's appropriate. You're posting
rules for thee, but not for me is pretty much what you're
posting. Hot pics. I mean, she's super hot, but you're posting hot photos of yourself in tight shirts and sports bras, and that's totally normal.
One thing I think is beautiful is they sit here and they'll have hot tub streams and all the stuff here on Twitch.
No talks
but then
about
they say,
that.
Don't sexualize me. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't sexualize me. But our most popular section here is women in hot tubs wearing small little bikinis with big boobs. Don't over-sexualize me, though. But that's how they're choosing to move forward and representing women and viewing themselves as having power, is by doing that. When it used to be that was considered not having power, but when you set the rules, you can make it mean whatever you want.
Well, it seems to me, and this will probably get me in trouble, but it seems to me that a majority of, and it goes back to what you were saying, Brian, a majority of the people upset by this are...
Bingo, boom, shakalaka.
Thank you, Big Woody Sauce. Perfect timing. They're probably peeved because they're working with more attractive people.
Yeah. Well, and plus also
that's what it seems to
sometimes
me.
when you want to get into certain areas, I will tell you, most likely in some things, in some types of work, someone who's attractive will make it ahead faster than someone who's not. But what I will tell you is when it comes down to incredibly technical things, how attractive you are doesn't make it a difference on whether or not you have the ability to do something. And so there is a point where this can be, something say, hey, look at Booth Babes. There's going to be some criteria where they're going to be judging whether or not you can be a part of that. But there is a point when you get to technical enough, the troll who sits in the closet, who has a lot of really weird knowledge, is the one getting paid more than you. So
there is a great term, Brian, called comparative advantage. We all have different comparative advantages. If you are doing something press related, something media related, sales related, Big Woody Sauce pointed out, you ever seen pharma sales girls?
Yeah.
A comparative advantage is being attractive. I don't make the rules. I just live in the world and play by them. And that's the reality of it.
I used to have a friend who did that, but so he was a guy that would go visit the female ones at the offices. So they had females that went and visited the male doctors, and then they had males that went and visited the female doctors, or vice versa, depending on the situation. That's just the culture. That's the reality. You can get mad about it, but you know what? That they found that moves forward sales.
Look at television.
But that could be bad, but that's the reality of it.
Just look at TV. Look at news, even local news.
Yep.
Who are your predominant anchors? Attractive females.
Look at Mexico and the weather.
The Mexican weather girl. Jesus Christ.
Yes. That's its own thing altogether.
That shit should be illegal.
Yeah. So obviously those women have such a high knowledge of weather. They've managed to work their way to those places. But they all pretty much look, in the end, about the same. There's certain characteristics that the weather people have, and is that bad? I guess.
No, I guess because goal. Guess what the goal in television is, Brian? To get as many viewers as possible, so you can sell as many ads as possible.
Yeah.
So, what do? They hire attractive people to do news, to do weather, to do whatever, so that more people watch, and they can sell more advertising. Because at the end of the day, what is news? What is media? What is all this stuff? A business. They're trying to make as much money as possible. They don't give a shit about their employees. They don't care about anything besides profit. Any business that says they don't care about profit, we care about our employees. Bullshit. You care about profit because that's the only way you sustain. That doesn't mean treat your employees like garbage, but it means at the end of the day, what is the number one priority of any company? The answer is profit.
Profit.
And I know that's the evil capitalist
they don't like
system.
that. That's the problem. They don't like that.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? That's the point.
Yeah. Well,
they don't
losers,
like that
why.
system.
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out how do we tear it down, and piece by piece.
All right. Brian.
Well, there's other things we could cover, but people that are interested in there's more articles and things if you want to dig more into it. But that's a lot of weird things happening at Blizzard. Hey, if you want to find me at Brian Aldridge on Gabber Parlor, my blog biteoftech.com. Also, you can go check out our website infectionpodcast.com. Check out on the right hand side there. Got join our server on Discord. If you think there's a game we need to talk about, technology, something happening in the news, submit it in our news channel. Just put a link in there. We'll be able to look at it before the next show. Steam group, we'll keep trying. Eventually, maybe it'll start popping up notifications again. If you want to watch the show, Twitch, YouTube, BitChute, and DLive, those are all we can watch live or after the fact. We also have our podcast extras, which has some of our pre and post shows in there. If you want to listen to it, down the lower right hand side, just click whatever platform you're interested in. And then while you're listening, you can follow along by clicking on the particular episode and then following the links. So we've got video links, articles, tweets, all kinds of things in there, a video and audio player that you can use. And then if you want to support us, go to infectionpodcast.com/support. get all the different ways you can support the show through that. And as you heard through the show, a couple Prime Gaming subs as well. So thank you very much.
Want to thank our friend Big Woody Sauce for hitting us up with that subscription here during the program. Apologize about last week's podcast. If you ever don't notice a podcast and you're a podcast listener, please send me a message on a direct message on Discord. I don't believe that's ever happened before, but I will verify that, make sure that does not happen again. So apologies on that. All right, Brian, as always, thank you very much. Have a great week. We'll hopefully, unless we're canceled, we'll see you next Tuesday.
See you next week.
All right, guys, that's going to do it. My name is Nick Craig. You can check out my weekday political antics at nickcraig.com, 6 to 9 a.m. on the radio here in Wilmington. If you missed any portion of the program, you can check out show notes, links, images, photos, non-sexualized women on our website, infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.